Good morning and welcome to the Capital Gang. I am Oscar Semoyam Soke with a bevy of topics, as Moses Kaule would say, and Moses is still in the studio. So,
good morning, Oscar.
Yes.
My voice is not as deep as yours, a man can try.
A man can try indeed. Honorable Katesh Shumwa Dixon is in the studio. We've missed you for a while, Katesh. Welcome back to the gang. Clearly you have fuel, you've not stayed at home.
How do you know that I came walking? I could have walked to work. Good morning, Oscar, and thank you very much. And just this morning, we had a very bad incident in Shema where I have lost about 8 people to the road accident.
Oh dear.
So I want to pass on condolences to the family and also the family of Mzee Ferechi. And I hope that police can investigate the vehicles involved and reach conclusion. But my condolences to the family in Shema who have lost people this morning.
Very sad and timely death. Benjamin Katana is in the studio as well. For him, he does not have a problem with fuel. He's the NUP money man.
I'm used to walking, so fuel, those are middle class problems. In any case, we have been advised that we should stay at home.
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, Oscar.
Good morning.
And to the listeners of this show.
So your party has lost an MP. I think, Katesh, is this the second MP who's died in a short period?
Yes, we lost the lady from Teso just after elections. And shortly after, we have lost our colleague, Honorable Nachimori, who was a darling of everybody. And it's been very, very, very bad for us to lose such a... She was a very warm person, not radical, opposing but keeping the bridges. And at a very young age, I last had a discussion with her on May 1st, on April 1st, sorry. And, she used to call me Muram because I married from Uganda. And she had a lot of plans. So she was asking me ideas on how she can develop herself in the next 5 years. The first time I interacted with her in 2021, she asked me, how do I serve my people while in opposition? And I told her, you are leading people who are also led by the government which is in power. So as you do your politics, make sure that you build bridges, reach out to the ministers, identify your problems, and don't get into noise without serving the people. And in the last 5 years, the people of Kalangala, she has advocated for, she was a very big advocate for the fishing sector. We have now more connection of boats going into Kalangala, including judiciary, boats to take magistrates. So I think we shall miss her. She's not just been an MP for Noop, but she has been a very progressive young lady whom we all, my condolences to the family. And as Parliament, we agreed to support the kid.
I saw this death is what unites you now. Both NRM and NUP were very together.
Yes, but they are very big.
You are not calling them noise.
No, they
return to the usual rhetoric.
It is a point of reflection because we've lost many colleagues, and you could see the uniqueness of the unity that surrounded the paying of respect for this girl, because everybody was in the house. And that goes to character. Despite the party differences, we have to remain human and respectful, and that is what is very important. There is nobody who looked at Helen as an opposition legislator because of the way she conducted herself. She had different views, but she built bridges. We agreed on bipartisan issues, yet we respected her position to be in her party. And so It's a big loss for all of us.
The Madam Speaker of Gang, she's Right Honorable Wanyoto, is in the studio.
Yeah, thank you.
Sitting next to her voter.
Sitting next to her voter, Katesh.
Thank you. Good morning, Oscar, and good morning to Benja and Honorable Katesh.
But hold on, I'll come back to you on this one. Let's go back to Benjamin Katana. It was his line. First, enjoy Star Cafe.
Okay.
They did not stay at home. They have also come and they are working. So, Benjamin, what happened to Honorable Nachimoli?
Well, the unfortunate passing of Helen, incomprehensible. Comprehensible. She was very young, full of life, and extended warmth towards everyone. She was also a strong voice, especially for the fishing community. You know, for the last few years, well, I don't know, few years, there has been a lot of harassment on the lake by members of the UPDF.
Some claim it hasn't really stopped yet.
Yeah, and she has been a strong voice for that community and pushing back against the violence. You know, the NRM thinks every problem must be solved through violence because that is their known effective formula. So even when there are problems of challenges that need to be addressed around the lake, they always think the solution is in violence. She has also been a very strong voice in the advocacy against HIV and AIDS on the islands and elsewhere. She has just, I think, a few days to her death, she spoke with candor about the issues affecting the governance and the shrinking democratic space in the country, and called upon the church leaders to speak boldly and speak truth to power regarding the excesses of the government. So it's very unfortunate that we lost her at that young age. She was still very useful to the community, to the country, and to the family. Of course, most times people have health challenges that are known to them and those that are very close to them. And it was on the basis of the health challenge she had that he sought intervention. And on that day, she went for a surgery that failed and led to her death. I'm not versed with the details of what transpired, but of course I think it would also be inappropriate for me to, start discussing the details of what could have happened and what could not have happened. But of course there have been questions, and I think questions not inspired by bad faith, but questions inspired by the desire to establish the truth, to find out were the doctors diligent enough. Was the death avoidable? Could there have been some elements of negligence, and questions of that nature, and questions which I believe are legitimate, and the hospital should be forthright in answering these questions, because modern medical practice is also largely based on transparency and information. It's no longer shrouded in a myth that, someone has gone to hospital, in our language, Katesha and I saying, like, you can die anytime. So when you die, they say, no, the person's time has come. There are no questions to be asked. But I think transparency and accountability requires that when such a thing happens, people should, of course, there can be limits as to how much information can be divulged to the public, but there should be accountability. In the same week, of course, I also lost another person known to me, Engineer Onesimus, a budding investor in ICT, a young man. He also died at 41 to cancer, and at the funeral service, one of the people, I think, a distinguished citizen, Mkoronziza, who works at BOU, I think is one of the directors at BOU, spoke about the need for investment in diagnostic technology and he was using his personal experience on how he went to hospitals here. They told him his liver was okay until he reached Take. When he went through the process, he was told his liver was a gone case. So I think these challenges should not only be a constant reminder about the fleeting nature of life, but also it should be a point of reflection, especially for policymakers and decision makers in the country, to invest in improving the health services in the country, so that the young man I'm talking about died from Take. His remains were repatriated to Uganda. The people with means continue to die outside the country. Those without means continue to die without being attended to properly. So I think as a country, collectively, regardless of where we stand politically or our status in life, we need to collectively have a strong voice making a case for meaningful investment in health sector that will enable the people of Uganda to get sufficient health care. Death is a given, but it shouldn't be on account of negligence.
Yeah. Excuse me. Welcome to the Capital Gang. Derek Wandera, I thought you were going to stay home, but you're here.
No, thank you. I'm here.
You have made it.
Yeah.
Maybe you walked.
I had to walk.
Yes. Nora, our regular listener, says, I pray the Speaker of Parliament. She mentions a name that now we have Lydia in the studio. And all other women MPs, including the Minister of Health, utilize this opportunity to highlight the plight of women in Uganda. Lydia.
Good morning once again, Oscar, and to Honorable Katesh. Katesh, I got a call from Kabohe this morning because some of those people are my friends. Sorry about that gruesome and tragic accident and the loss of life. Benja, good morning, and my brother Derek. Where are you going? They should have been asked, where are you going? Because if you don't have fuel, stay home. So, but Oscar, I want to join everyone to again pass my condolences to Honorable Helen Nachimuli's family, her daughter, her father, siblings, the people of Kalangala, and the NUP, the party she represented in Parliament. Helen has been my friend. She was a very common person, regular at Parliament, and friendly. So it was very easy to work with her. But also she was a media personality. We've been meeting at many talk shows with your friend, Honorable Gorethi Namuga. These are people that you meet in the studio and you bond. So for the fact that there are very few women politicians you'll meet in studios, she stood out. And therefore, for me, it was a big loss. Sometime last year, you've heard what Katana has said. They're talking about the management of the fishing industry. But I took time to understand when we rolled out the parish development model. I thought that the fishing community was a bit unique. They may not do much with the 1 million for lifting them up into the money economy. So we did a plan and a proposal, and she was very helpful with MPs from Pakwach, those people that come from fishing. Uganda is surrounded by fishing community. So she was very, very active, and her contribution to that strategic plan for the fishing community in terms of startup capitals, but also managing their fishing gears and their troubles on the waters and fishing was very, very useful. Finally, she's been in sports. So during the march, is called the Women's Month. We had a gathering of women organized by civil society, and she gave a very, very compelling presentation about women in sports and Parliament. So I just remembered how many women who are actually joining the 12th Parliament ran to her to get contact, because she had persuaded them and invited them to join sports at Parliament. She's been the chairperson of the volleyball team at Parliament, but also doing other sports. So I also want to send my condolences to those women that were impressed by her presentation, and they're looking forward to being in sports at Parliament, because she was one of the leaders of the sports groups in Parliament. Opposition or Parliament is not about being in opposition or being in government. I think the moment you take oath, you are all leaders. And the moment we learn that, we'll serve our country better. And I think she had been a good role model for that. And we can learn from her so that we are able not to think that anybody is lesser. The moment you are elected a member of Parliament, we just have to get the best out of you and we contribute to our country. That's my view. So nobody is lesser and nobody should be taunted or fought. Because even I think Katana should know this, the issue of branding and grooming people is very important. There was a very big campaign of people dissuading others from going for burial, or because of that relationship, people think if you go they will stone you. That should stop. We should all look at leadership and clean it up, and show that we draw lines from leading Uganda. And maybe our political colors should not blind us from looking at the bigger picture of a national leader that Nachimuli was able to project.
And none of yours.
And then finally, yes, but you can see the perception. Yeah, but we need to do that. And I'm sure you also fear to come to our national function because you're all yellow. I'm just talking about that. You know you're yellow, you cannot come to our national function. Labor Day is coming up. Many of you will not come because this is a yellow function. We should now be able to draw lines.
Let's organize an anniversary with his wife and I will attend.
Okay, you're most welcome. Finally, Oscar, as I greet people, finally, I would like to join the friends of General MK. Myself, I'm not just a friend. I work under the UPDF in my other work. So I want to congratulate him for his birthday that he has put to good use, because tomorrow there will be a run for a good cause to support those that are in need. And I will join the run. I also bring you greetings from Mbale City. There will be a delegation from Mbale City to join the run for a good cause. So happy birthday, General. 52 years. We are going to put it to good use. We celebrate your birth, but also we celebrate Uganda. And these are good things that we should be able to come together to work for a good cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. I almost remained home because they asked why.
Where were you going?
Where are you going? But I said I have to be on the gang. In 2025, Oscar, around September, a top government official in this country cried with lots of emotion and not just playing politics about the state of the health care in the country. The Lady Justice Irene Mulyagonja lost her husband at Mulago Referral Hospital. But the problem was that there was no one to attend to her, to the husband first, but also even if they did, they didn't have enough equipment, enough medicine, and just like the facility in itself. The late Justice Mulyagonja is a former Inspector General of this country, Inspector General of Government of this country, but now she sits on the on the Court of Appeal. Justice Court of Appeal. That is, in the order of precedence, she takes a very big position in this country. But if you find her lamenting and crying about the health care of this country, then I think when my brother Katana Benjamin speaks about it, we shouldn't just call him and shove him off as though he's doing politics. I mean, with all intents and purposes, we know the gaps we have in this country in terms of motivation to the people who are handling our medical health care, in terms of how we have equipped the hospitals, but also the medicine. the Honorable Helen Nachimuli dies in a manner that has not been explained up to now. Because if you're having a minor, and that's what I see in the reports, most of the reports, a minor surgery. A minor surgery, according to the dictionary definition, is one that is not so deep in terms of carrying out those medical issues. And if you can die of a minor, I just want to imagine I'm being operated on my fingernail. Maybe I got some injury and it's being operated to remove the remaining part of it, and then I'm pronounced dead. There's so many questions that come with it. Probably there was a lot of negligence. There was probably I wasn't handled well. Truth be told, Nachimuli is but just one of the statistics of Ugandans who have died to the very dilapidated health system of this country. And it's a very big reason for my sister, Lydia, as you enter Parliament, and Honorable Katesh, to vouch for these, especially now that we are in the budgeting process. How are we budgeting? Let's look at the figures that we've given to the healthcare, for instance. Are we prioritizing things that matter to us, matter to Ugandans? We can remain home and don't move, but then we shouldn't remain home and die, you know? At least I should be able to walk from home because I don't have fuel, because it's not important. I should walk to a hospital and be able to find their medicine, find their health officials who are motivated and who are able to take care of us. Otherwise, we are thinking that we are left to die. We should remain home, don't move, but also die because of the health system. These are matters that are very important to our country, and NSN Ugandan ought to vouch for these, ought to voice their concerns about this. So Helen Nachimuli, who is a honorable member of parliament, dies in such a state. What about me, who is a nobody, who is a nothing, who is only known by my sister Lydia, you know? So I think it's high time we speak a little bit more about these matters, but also act on them. Look at the policies and make sure that Ugandans can also feel that they are in a country that they call home. Yeah.
The Katesh, Nora Oraga goes ahead, says she wishes the next parliament has a non-partisan bill, the Nachimuli healthcare bill, to begin with. But then other people have been writing about issues that in Uganda have a little bit of medical tourism expenditure, maybe reduce that. The medical tourism expenditure usually will take Katesh to India or Kenya or wherever and spend some of that money here. We don't have medical health insurance at a national level. We don't have any basic contribution towards that. We don't have a digital health infrastructure. So there are many areas to improve, and possibly not blaming the ministry, but maybe because of the handicaps that the ministry has.
Let me tell you, I sit on the budget committee, and if you see the debate that comes when we are examining the ministerial policy statement, all the issues that my brother here, Wandera, has said, they all concern us. I just need to check the numbers quickly, but the budget which we approved yesterday, the health sector was given 1.2 trillion, Minister of Health.
What's the percentage?
Well,
it's because in the SDGs, I think the percentage recommended globally should be, is it 15%?
15%.
Yes, of course, when you go by that percentage, sometimes they are just academic, because a health sector without electricity, without a connecting road, you know, when you look at it as in terms of the money that has gone into the Ministry of Health, maybe to build a health center, there are other attendant issues, because human capital development is also related to health. So we are not spending as much as we would be spending because of the constraints that we have as a country. And also, I know I heard recently there is a new facility here which has been built, but there are no experts, no consultants. So it's a very big challenge. The death of Nachumuli raised a lot of questions. First of all, you see, one time I met a friend of mine, and he told me, you see, any operation in some of these countries, however small it could be, requires a complete assessment of the entire body system and vitals, to the extent that that operation, as it is taking place, there must be preparedness to respond if some other occurrence happens within the body. And so a lot of questions are that was there preparedness in case,
Or they also thought it was just as minor,
or
so
it's
they
just
took
a matter
preparedness.
of putting anesthesia and then you start operating. So there are many questions. There is an investigation going on by the medical people. There will be lessons learned, but also we ask the ministry, they have to look into some of these facilities and maybe regulations. It could be an operation. Our colleagues were telling us here in Parliament that this particular health challenge she had, many women have gone through it and have been operated here successfully in some of the health facilities, including government. So it may not be a complicated matter that required someone to be flown to Turkey, but it is about the preparedness and the ability of a health center to respond and alertness. So those are some of the things that we should be able to look at and not generalize. There are many issues of health. There has to be more work has to be done.
I should tell you, we are concluding 2 Rotary district conferences.
Yes.
But even us in Rotary, we had someone who was going to be the president of Rotary in the world.
The letter award.
Yes, some award. And he didn't die in a Ugandan hospital. But again, he had gone for a minor. So sometimes
on the
these things
foot.
happen.
Even my brother, is it Akankwasa? He was a Rotarian. He went into something to do with the gastro something, and he never made it. So,
Agri,
yes, is our brother from Shema. So these things are very painful. A very young lady drives herself into the hospital and lives in a body bag.
But for you MPs, away from this particular case, you need to, address the issues of healthcare. And as you said, some of these things are academic. Equally, if you go into a hospital and there's only Panadol, they don't even have gloves, that can be a real challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from my experience as a member of parliament for Shema, I have a health center 4, which I found was in a very, very despicable state, including planning, artificial shortages. And so I asked NMS, I said, how come we see drugs being destroyed at the end of the year stock, but some of our health facilities, you don't have enough? And so they started a system of alerting us when medicine has gone to the health center. Then now we have to deal with human resource. People who are taking away medicine from health centers, selling it, absenteeism. So it's a whole, and I think that they need to change the law, because the umbilical cord between the local governments and the center on critical health services, especially education and health, it's been cut. A health center 4 supervisor is recruited by the District Service Commission. If he messes up, the Ministry of Health cannot act on him. You will go to Diana and she will tell you, that is a District Service Commission, they must deal with it. But he's managing a health facility of government. The drugs are coming from government. If the people are absent, and if some of these people have been recruited in a very unclear circumstance, then even the supervisors at the district or municipals are not very eager to actually discipline them. This is a very real problem we are dealing with. And my sister here, as you come to Parliament, we need to examine, especially the critical services of health and education. In the past, we used to have people, superintendents, moving around inspecting. But now they are on their own. The center is separate, public service
Even
is separate,
standards,
and everything is in the name of decentralization. While we promote decentralization, we should not undermine the central supervision role, and this is where maybe we may need to examine the law and see. Because the issue of absenteeism in health facilities is a problem. Drugs, and there is no one at the center who comes to actually oversee, other than maybe the Auditor General's reports that come at the end of the time. But the local government's capacity to superintend and perfect these social services is a very big challenge.
Benjamin Katana, if your government, if your party had won the election, then they would have had to supervise this particular sector that even Katesh is saying is not in a good way. So how would you go about that? But you know, with issues on health and medical, we can lament all day. But there's been discussion on medical insurance, and all those discussions have died. Because at the time, I recall the last one, they were going to tax people who are already paying payee. And I think it's the reason why that particular one died.
I think
you know, when Katesh has the word tax, you jumped up straight. But
I remember one time I was watching a debate between President Zuma in South Africa and Maimane, who was the then leader of opposition. And he in a cheeky way told Zuma that he was a tired man leading a tired nation. I think most of these problems in Uganda relate to the casual manner in which government is run. The top technocrats here, actually beginning from the ministers, they are not effectively supervised by the appointing authority and the prime minister. The permanent secretaries and the other technical people at the national level are not supervised. Judging from the speed at which even a simple document takes to leave a desk, if you are following up any document in any state institution, the same laissez-faire has been replicated at every level of government, in local government, but even to the extent that now it is even reaching the private sector. There's a lot of unseriousness, there is a lot of casualness, there is a lot of laissez-faire in how things are done. And even in that particular case, questions are being asked that even if you're dealing with a small matter, normally if you are going to undergo a surgery, people are asked, for example, to spend about 12 hours at the hospital, some time to be monitored, so that they are able to know the fluctuation of they are called vitals. The doctors call them vitals and things of that nature. So but because almost every other person approaches everything in a casual manner, and because someone has paid their money, if he says, no, this medicine, I don't think it's good, then they give it. One time I was in the hospital and I overheard a doctor asking the person when they were prescribing medicine for a child, my child, said, is it in insurance or cash? The person said cash. Yeah, then give them the medicine that they want instead of. So the question was not whether I'm paying cash or insurance because of the limitations of money. So, and there have also been questions regarding even these referrals to hospitals, this medical tourism, that they have become deals between some practitioners here and some institutions out of the country. So there's a lot of unseriousness, there's a lot of casualness. I think the starting point is to have some cultural shift on how we look at provision of services, so that people are not just ticking a box, but people are doing what they are doing, focused on the results. And there should be accountability for actions or inactions of office bearers. But if people just go about business as if, even business that is life-threatening or life-changing, and there are no repercussions, I can tell you that before we wake up, will be in a very, very, very terrible state. And it is not restricted. If you are talking about health facilities, you go to these primary schools even not just in the village, but public primary schools around town, you'll find some teachers don't show up, some show up in sandals, some teach for 1 hour and leave, some moonlight as they work as teachers and for 1 hour, and the next 1 hour they are border riders. You go to courts, these lower courts. Today people move.
You Katana, leave teachers alone.
No. I'm giving.
The topic is healthcare.
Yes, you see the health. You cannot have an effective health care.
You're saying it's symptomatic.
Yes, it is symptomatic of a big problem. People drive from Kambara to go and attend the court in Mbari. Wait from 10, 11. At 1 they are told the magistrate is not able to come. I'm using Mbari as an example. Same the other day, people were complaining about Parliament. people were invited in Parliament to give views on.
They were busy running around the court.
To give views on at 10 on a bill before Parliament. By 4 p.m., people are complaining that they were invited. They arrived at 10, and it has not happened. So there's a lot of unseriousness in the country because running of state affairs has been reduced into a very casual affair. And I think if we are to change anything, whether we invest money, whether we appoint the most qualified people, as long as the leadership of the country still views this as a casual business, the country will continue to descend.
Lydia, healthcare, can it happen in your time?
Yeah.
Just imagine if every Ugandan had to pay 20,000 a year, 10,000 per 6 months. Would that work, or would we fear that money will also disappear?
For healthcare, I think the policy campaign now is more on the preventive. If we do it the preventive on most of the infectious diseases, we shall be able to get there. That's why I hear about there's a campaign about mosquitoes and malaria, mosquito nets and malaria campaign. For medical tourism, maybe Katesh, you can correct us, but I'm told now, at least the Luwa Hospital is 60% done. There's something about the budget on that facility.
It will be opened this year.
So that should be able to handle some of the specialized.
Katesh is government.
I thought Katesh is part of government, but he's busy telling us government assured us.
So and for women, there is the women's hospital, referral hospital running.
But Lydia, when you say
Mulago,
60%, you mean the building?
The infrastructure.
Yes.
Is yeah.
So as soon as the building ends,
you asked me how
it
far,
will be
and I'm telling
0%
you
on beds and so on.
You asked me how far, and I'm telling you.
And you answered in a clever way. That's why I've come
the
back
progress
to you.
being made is that where we were maybe 3-4 years ago, because of this campaign, including the advocacy at Capital Gang, we are able to get updates on what's happening in the country. The biggest shift in the policy of our country on healthcare, maybe I should now speak as somebody who is in government, not to what Wandera was saying, is that we are shifting more on prevention more than a cure. And that's a very good strategy or policy. The campaign against malaria, the 5 killer diseases are up and the program is up and running. You'll find that every other day there is a rollout of mosquitoes and programs how to deal with mosquitoes and malaria. On specialized hospitals, I've told you about the progress. We have a national referral hospital of the women's hospital. It's in Mulago. It's government run, but it's a component of private. So public-private partnership is up and running. For the military, the Mbuya Referral Hospital has opened. It's operational. It also has specialized. In that the case, this government also, Mbuya Referral Hospital for the UPDF is now open, and they also have other referral hospitals. So Oscar, we are discussing this because we had an unfortunate incident of Honorable Helen Nachimuli, but so many incidents happen. Because she's a profiled person, we are able to say, but also her death was sudden. Even when they were telling us it was a minor, I think she has not been sick to go for a surgery. That's why it has caused all this, shock, because it wasn't. She was not sick. We in Africa, we are used to someone being sick and they are not eating. You begin asking whether they can even take soup. That stretch of poor health. But she wasn't in the category of poor health, actually. That's why we are a bit in shock. But if she had been sick, the other members of parliament we've lost, but they were sick. They had been sick, hospitalized. So there was that history of somebody, even in the appearance or the energy is not there. But this is a girl that was full of energy, full of life. When we were coming from Chankwanzi, she was addressing the press. I found her somewhere. She was busy on audios talking. And she was like I said, she was a media person. So we can this conversation, Oscar, is important. It should continue. Advocacy, like on Capital Gang, about public interest issues. It helps. Because you may think that you are wasting time. No, somebody in the Ministry of Health is listening, and they will make sure that somehow, even if you invited them, they will be up to the game. I had the chance to listen to policy statements, so at least I have an idea of what's happening in the health sector. That's why I'm speaking with examples, including the recruitment of health workers. They have this year's budget has increased. Am I wrong? Yeah, I saw they have increased the recruitment and facilitation of health workers around the country in the different cadreship of the structure of healthcare. Yes, yeah. Even including the training schools for health workers. They have addressed that matter.
Would health insurance help?
Definitely, yes. Certainly, yes.
Yes, apart from the private, where
health insurance is the modern way to go. But I don't know why we haven't gotten there. We must have a health insurance so that it's a humanity matter, so that those who cannot afford can benefit from the health insurance from those who can afford.
Yeah. You see, one of the reasons it hasn't worked, health insurance, in my opinion, Derek Wandera, is because Lydia and Katesh, for them, health insurance is guaranteed. They will be flown to Kenya.
But they shouldn't think about themselves. They should think about
the policy
they have relatives
the country is about the mass line,
they
the
have
people.
neighbors who are not MPs.
We are very few.
Yeah.
Oscar, I know
just be about
that
them.
If I quote Kateshoni today, he said she was not so sick like to go to be flown to Turkey. But you do
But Oscar, that was tongue in the cheek.
Of course it was tongue in cheek. But I'm just saying that Derek will be flown to nowhere.
You cannot even walk. Where are you going?
It's a point I'm trying to make. That's why health insurance.
Oscar, even maybe before you allow Derek.
Yes.
The danger with even focusing on a few who are able to be flown to Turkey. Naturally, when you're sick, even if you have capacity to be flown to Turkey, you would want your people to come and see you, your pastor, pray for you. But when you are in Turkey, even if you are an MP and Parliament flies you to Turkey, they are not going to fly your relatives to come and visit you in Turkey. They are not going to fly you from Turkey to go and visit your farm or your children.
But
so we need to focus on Oscar, interventions that will benefit all of us, not just a few.
But you see, Oscar, you are talking about people that vote for us. If it is just self-defeating to have even your narrative, because if the government is not paying for, if we do not put in place functional health facilities, I'll have to pay. I cannot see my voter or my constituent suffering. So it's better. Then secondly, the people are talking about, these are our relatives. I come from Mbale City. They are my relatives. They are my kinsmen. They are my voters. So you cannot escape this matter. We must fix schools. We must fix health centers. If we don't, Katesh, won't the burden fall back on the member of parliament?
Is not in government.
So
I just imagine a country where a person in government is not sure whether they're in government or not, and they need to ask around, hey, do you think I'm in government or something? It points to the systemic problem that we have been talking about. That everyone is articulating. At least we are in the same boat and in the same bus in this studio today. That health insurance should be a priority. Health matters should be.
It's a matter. It's a matter of survival.
It must be, because then even if your voters, if they woke up and died, who will vote for you, for instance? So that's why, as you go to Parliament, make this that before we even discuss about the sovereignty bill, whether we are sovereign or not,
a productive population must be healthy.
Let's first talk about the health matters of the country. You see, the swiftness with which the sovereignty bill is running, If we had used the same to enact the insurance law or the insurance policy in this country, where would we be? I would be sure that I'm going to sleep, and if I felt anything, I would march to any hospital and be able to be attended to, not minding whether I have money or not. But minor issues take us with a lot of vigor because of our own interests and stuff like, and which I think that it's a leadership problem. It's a problem where if we are listening to the leaders right now, it's a political season, and you listen to the way leaders are throwing about statements and stuff like that, and you wonder whether these leaders actually know that they were put there by these people they are throwing these statements to. Without mentioning names, without mentioning statements, I feel our leaders, after reaching their offices, they feel they owe us a living. I mean, they feel we do not have anything to do with them. You get that? Then they will only come back to us and throw crabs to us, one here, two there, and then they go back to those offices and they will bellow any statements they want. I feel that health in any state is very important, because the most productive economies, look at them, check them out. Most productive economies have health insurance in place, because then you have your population very healthy. And when you're saying you go and work, go dig your gardens and stuff like that, my mother will not be able to wake up tomorrow because her back is aching because of probably old age or just health matters. And because she doesn't have money, I don't have money myself to send her to go to hospital, she will sleep. Before you know, poverty, hunger, and everything is the description of the country. Countries that have grown first take priority in their citizenry. Do the leaders in Uganda take the citizenry as their priorities? No. We are not the priority of our leaders. Our leaders' priority is to make sure they have money, they have good cars, they are driving in posh cars and stuff like that, which I think there is a very huge problem, which I think that if I have any access to any leader, like I do, one of the things I'm going to tell them is, mind your voters, my sister. Mind the people of Mbale City first than anyone else.
Sure.
It's very important.
But Oscar, I just want to give some information. Earlier on, you asked about our interventions in the health. This budget which we passed yesterday, we allocated 284 billion to Ministry of Health, 443 billion to the referral hospitals. That is recurrent expenditure. And 79 billion for development for the referral hospitals. And then the health ministry development budget is 1.2 trillion. That one now excludes, these other interventions like Ruboa you have talked about, and other health facilities under the budgets within the local government. So this year, about 2 trillion has been allocated to the health sector. Is it enough? Of course it will not be enough. And I think that to assume that government is doing nothing is really, because when you look at the health, we were even debating, saying some of the referral hospitals,
the Mbale Referral Hospital has a surgical ward which has taken 15 years.
Manpower
lack of
is the problem.
completion.
So we need to do more, but also acknowledge the steps that have been done. I think that without health, all these other things, health is like security.
Oscar, so I didn't want to interfere with what Katesh was saying, but
Before
the point is not that
he's saying, of course, I picked up a line, says, is that enough? And he said, of course it is not enough. But if Katesh donated 80 million from his 100,
which one?
said,
that's the
one you are getting attending a conference. So if Katesh gave 80 of that 100 to his health center for 3, it might help.
to pick it up from there, Oscar, is that it's true that the government has increased the spending, the health spending, but is it sufficient? Of course not. Can government do more?
Yes.
Of course, government has capacity, because even if you are talking about increment in recurrent budget, which is about recruitment, and remunerations of the health workers. But if the health worker at Chitagata Hospital, I know that is not Kateshi's constituency, but it's in the area. Even the people from my village who are even in Bushenyi, most of them end up going to that place. But do they have enough equipment to do proper diagnosis, even if you have more than enough staff, which is good. Increasing the number of staff and personnel is good. But we are spending money on things that are less important, money that could be redirected to the health sector, so that even you are not talking about the what you are talking about now that has been allocated to health, it can be doubled if you, for example, make sure that Oscar is talking about 100 million, but that is just a small portion of the money that is going to be spent on doing politics, not just investing in in priority areas like health and security and science like we'll be seeing later. I think the problem is that the government has the priorities wrong. It is focused especially on politics, and largely politics of keeping power, not politics of transforming the country. And most of the money is lost in, if you, every small person now in government has a long convoy. That is money wasted. They have unnecessary staff. That is money that is being wasted attending to one person. If the Speaker of Parliament came here, or the Deputy Speaker, or the even Permanent Secretary of a ministry, you would think that the place has been turned into a barracks. So it's not that we don't have the money, but we are spending the money on wrong things to keep a few people comfortable at the expense of the majority of the citizens. Because these people who are making decisions, the idea of people looking at all voters, what, I think is inappropriate. First and foremost, we must look at each other as fellow citizens of this country and realize that even when people in Mbare are not happy on account of failure of the state to provide services, even the people in Bushenyi will not be happy. Because imagine now Lydia says some of the people she knows have died in Shema. She's going to kill 2 days, money, drive her car to go and bury. The time that would have been used to do other things. And we're not saying people shouldn't, there can be time when people are not dying, but there's avoidable death. And death shouldn't be attributable to the failure of the state establishment to do its duty.
Lydia said, when you said it was because it's sudden and all, but as the Capital Gang here, we have some topics already researched that we have, so it is not like we have fallen on these questions. It's all been said, the health problem. And here is a listener telling Lydia and Katesh, where is that message? Katesh and Lydia are MPs today, but tomorrow they will be out and would benefit from a national health insurance scheme.
No, we are all for the insurance.
UBOS reported at the end of March that over 5 years, malaria prevalence had grown from 9% to 13%, basically confirming that preventive measures by the health sector remain just words in an unserious atmosphere. Joseph Otieno, you are late to the gang because we agreed 10:45 is when you'd be here. You got in at 10:52. Perhaps because you walked.
And where was he going?
Yeah.
And nobody's bothered about my journey.
You're most welcome. You conclude on this with an opinion, because I'm sure you've been listening as you came along.
Yes, I have been, but for the last 20 minutes, not at all, thanks to the mess of infrastructure challenges facing this. So I got lost onto the program. Number two, I came onto the northern bypass, and there's a huge lorry parked in the middle of the road, and there's no signage. I've told the program that I once visited Ellen Kagina, fantastic lady, I always want to say, on her way off when I had an incident on a main road. I lost my wife following an accident which killed many members of the family, and she died at a hospital on a trolley. And part of the causes of her death was basically no blood. So this is a topic which is, we can go on and on.
Very dear.
But what I actually just saw on the road is a manifestation of that. It's basically a broken system. But I must join everybody else to convey my condolences to the family of Helen Nachimoli. As it happens, I first met her at an event in town where she gave that one to my good friend Norbert Mao. The clip doing the rounds about only speaking English rather than delivering. And,
are you jealous of our good English?
Yeah, Norbert had given his intro and had given my intro, but good enough, Norbert had an opportunity as a former guest to conclude and then respond. So that was Helen, fantastic lady. But whatever the case, I don't think really we should be experiencing this. When I first returned from exile 20 years ago, Katesh, you are the chief of these budget things. I promised that a future UPC government would ensure that there's compulsory registration of deaths and registration of births. Whatever's happening is actually where...
Isn't it compulsory now?
I don't know. We need to be told.
I think it is.
Next to that should really be about a question of inquest. Where this lady died should actually be a crime scene. I happen to know some of the people related, and we're not making anything out of it. They're very, very, very responsible people. But this sort of really how we should be treating these things. Number two, the health budget. I was quite impressed when you push on Katesh that I don't know what figures he gave you. 15% is basically it's a commonsensical obvious. We managed to provide something.
It's SDG guidance.
Indeed. And we managed to provide something as excellent as this way back in Obote 1 and Obote 2. It should really be a bare minimum indeed. And we provided excellent health facilities and health services and indeed education. There's no reason why I don't do it today when our leaders are boasting about oil refineries across Kenya. Number 3, I'm actually opposed to the question of health insurance. Health insurance is basically a privatization but through the back door. We don't need health insurance. We just need to make sure that people pay their fair share of taxes. Dubious billionaires pay their fair share of taxes. We make sure that we tax people who come here allegedly in the name of investors that apparently are given 10 years tax waivers, Mr. Museveni was saying yesterday, and ordinary Ugandans down the market in Chanja are being broken down. I think there is something fundamentally wrong. But of course, as I said, because I already spent my few minutes down the road thanks to their incompetence, I just want to say that, well, may Helen's soul rest in eternal peace. But when my good friend Chris Barombozi, we met yesterday at an event, fantastic guy, had that incident in which we thought it would be the beginning of a serious focus on investment in health. When a friend of mine from down the road here died only last month because she was at a public hospital undergoing a surgery and apparently power went off. So this business of which electricity comes first and which infrastructure comes first is basically a broken system. But whatever the case, I'm unfortunately optimistic as a citizen, but extremely pessimistic that anything will fundamentally change unless there is a change at the top.
Oh, this is from someone who's eternally positive. Doomsday for once.
But Oscar,
hold on, let's stop.
No, I'm still very optimistic.
No, one second.
Let's stop for a break. We'll come back from the break. Lydia, you had a...
I was, the appropriation was done yesterday. I was following. But I just thought, when you read for us which man has gone to the referrals and to the hospitals, the health sector, I think that maybe you look at the projects and appropriate, finish one project and do another. I have a project in Mbale Referral Hospital. It's in the middle of the city, the surgical complex structure. It has been there in a shell form for the last 15 years with a chibati around it. It is, first of all, it makes the town look dirty. It is a security threat because the thieves hide there. It is more or less now a dumping place because people throw garbage all over the place. And it's in the middle of a hospital. On the side, the regional hospital is operational. But the surgical ward, because every year you appropriate little money, like 500 million, not can it do any complex.
Yeah.
Every financial, why don't you look at this Mbale surgical ward? Allocate money to this referral hospital, finish it, then go to another referral.
I agree with you. And Oscar, I just wanted to... we were talking about health insurance, but the health insurance in Uganda must be understood. The context. Because the issue is not the issue is actually health financing, not insurance. For me, the bigger issue is the management of health infrastructure and services. And what she's talking about is correct. Because when you talk of health
15
insurance,
years. Yeah.
the question might be, what about education or housing? But the problem you have mentioned, we need
Katesh
to...
has whispered to me that he has given you both his time.
No,
Because
okay.
if Lydia is saying 15 years and no progress,
No, but
On a structure
no.
Katesh has
in the
agreed.
middle of the city.
He's giving you his time. He says, continue with that line.
No.
You
I was
are
talking about-
addressing it better than
I was
you can.
looking at the insurance because even countries like Britain and other developed countries don't have compulsory health insurance. They finance health services through a budget, and therefore we should be looking at, can we have a national health insurance? We have a tax ring fence to insurance, and for this infrastructure, I agree with my sister here, and she's been on the national planning, the NPA, and this has been an issue. Everybody who is building, you find multiple buildings of government taking place or retarded at the same time. And what has been our ask is that let us complete. You cannot have 5 hospitals being built.
At the same time.
They are all stagnant, and the budget is not enough to finish. So if we concentrated on one and finished it,
You want all the voters in the different areas to know that.
no, but we are
You
heading
can show
there.
the plan.
We are heading there now because in this particular year, I think government has there is a general understanding that we do not start on new projects
Yes.
before we complete.
Clean
existing
the
one.
old,
And if
the
that
new
can
ones,
be done for the
but
next
also
5 years,
maintain the old ones.
then we do maintenance, rehabilitation,
Yes.
and then we improve the infrastructure, while at the same time planning for the services that go into the. Because in some cases we have seen a health center is finished, but the procurement of equipment is delaying. Even in electricity, we have a place in our place where poles
Their
are
poles
erected,
are there and there are
then
no
the
wires
will
are
take
not
6
coming.
months. So there is a lot of synchronized planning, improvement that has to be done, and this one we acknowledge it is work in progress.
This morning, the way Katana and Wandera are looking at people in government. But now, stay on the microphone, Katesh.
Yes.
Tax.
Yes.
So, proposals are being tabled at this point in time, just as the sovereignty bill is being proposed, just as there's
Oscar, why are you doing a mix?
No, I'm trying not to mix, but just as, as we have to walk, but then you're planning in Parliament to increase taxes. And I've known that the only one where we may feel like there's some kind of a win is that stamp duty hasn't been increased.
Yes, Oscar, we passed the tax bills, and for this particular year, for the last 5 years, we've been advocating for government to change the whole budgeting process, because in the past we would start with the appropriation bill, we pass the budget before we look at the source of revenue. So this particular year, I think government finally and Parliament listened to some of us, and we started with the tax bills, because the source of revenue is the one that funds the budget. So we looked at the bills we passed. There are so many provisions which are good for the country, but of course people pick out a few. But just to give you a quick one, the one of stamp duty 1.5, the proposal was to increase it to 3%, and we as a committee and supported by Parliament, it was not passed, because we did not think that it is necessary to target a factor of production, okay? Because you might also lead to people failing to transfer, and that has an impact on investment. But there are many things that government did in the bills which we passed. For example, the VAT. The threshold has been standing at 150 million per year for many years, and it was netting in so many small taxpayers with obligations to collect VAT and account, and creating a lot of heavy burden on some of them. That one has been increased to 250. which is a very good start. Some of us would have wished maybe 350 and more, but it's a good start. There are incentives introduced for developers of tourism facilities. If someone wants to go and invest in Honorable Thieno's constituency area in Agongera, there are incentives for them to go and invest. They pay as you earn. The Ugandans have, any Ugandan who was earning above 235 was being charged tax. The threshold has been pushed to 335. It's a very good positive measure because it allows many Ugandans who are earning little money to save their money, not taxed. And of course, the couple of increases, excise duty on spirits, cement, fuel, largely driven by the factor of inflation. Because if you have 100 shillings that you are charging since 2015, if you factor in inflation, it is now worth 175. So government was proposing, an increase. So we had to look at a middle ground. In some cases, adopt a fair average disposition that takes care of inflation, while at the same time recognizes the need for government to generate revenue to finance the budget. Because we've just come out of campaigns. We have promised Ugandans we must fund the SGR, AFCON, these PDM, the wealth funds, the money in the education sector. There is a lot of demand, and the unfunded priorities are still very many. But we believe that that some of the measures that were introduced, like a tax waiver on people who had outstanding interest and penalty since 2016, it is a relief for businesses to have a restart. So you have to look at the measures in totality, Oscar, and not pick out one and expound it. But I believe that the Parliament, and particularly our Committee on Finance, Planning and Economic Development, subjected these measures into a very thorough analysis and debate. And our consideration was, how much are we going to raise? What is the impact on the economy? Is it likely to create jobs? Is it likely to increase the cost of its collection? We test against all these considerations. Then we moved to pass the bills. The only problem we saw, Oscar, is that we need to enforce consumer protection laws in this country, because immediately the first draft of the measures leaked out before even the discussion. We saw some of the business people increasing taxes unfairly. I mean, increasing the prices, cement, fuel, and they go and tell people that government has put tax. I mean, a tax will be effective in July, but some of our business people, and this is what we were calling the Minister of Trade yesterday, there has to be a deliberate effort to protect consumers against unscrupulous. Because if you go and tell people you have increased cement because of a tax that is not yet effective, even the law has not been signed, you are not being fair. The hoarding of fuel is now imported through UNOC. Yes, we have seen the exchange rate problems because of the Strait of Hormuz problems. But there should be no one taking advantage. If we did not have UNOC in place, the law which we passed, the situation would have been very difficult. Like in Kenya, fuel is more expensive than here. But so why should someone now go in Arua and sell a liter at 8,000? And then he goes scot-free. So we are calling upon government as legislators that let's enforce consumer protection so that people don't take advantage of tax increases that have not yet been implemented.
But surely Parliament should know that if you're discussing these things and something has been passed, traders will jump on it straight away. You should have that awareness.
No, it shouldn't be, because we expect that that's why we passed the consumer protection law, and it cannot be Parliament to go and enforce it. It should be the relevant ministry like Minister of Energy, to say, we sold you fuel through UNOC at this rate. How can you go and sell it at 10,000? It's not acceptable. Some of the stations are changing prices in the night and daytime and creating unnecessary scarcity. Actually, the ministry should publish who has what fuel, the stock, so that the public is aware and it's not taken advantage of.
Benjamin?
Yeah, thank you very much, Oscar. Of course, I think the mistake that we always make is, so when we sit here, we compare ourselves with Kenya, we compare ourselves with Rwanda, we say on these aspects we are better. But I think we need to engage another gear and we paint a picture of where we want to be as a nation and work towards, because these neighbors that we keep comparing ourselves with are really in the same basket. They are equally poor, struggling nations that have no plan for the poor. The poor people in Kenya are suffering like the poor people in Uganda. Yes, but that is besides the point.
My brother, let me give you information. We used to buy fuel through the open tender system, through Kenya, and there were many middlemen. And the president, government, brought a law to empower UNOC. And I remember your party. The guys were very opposed and saying we want to take over fuel. What is happening in Kenya is that you have so many middlemen that are taking advantage of the supply chain of fuel. And that's why the difference here is because you have one central purchaser, government, and so it is right for us to compare and say fuel is cheaper in Uganda because of the government effort that has been done, and we should take credit.
My point is that the issues like taxation, issues like enforcement, that we should imagine the kind of nation we want to build and we work towards the realization of that dream. But we can console ourselves, we say in terms of producing this, we are now, but back to the topic of the new tax arrangement. When you look at while they may not have taken effect, what is going to be the legal regime, you realize that the struggling ordinary people are going to suffer more than they have been suffering. For example, you are increasing, if you have introduced an increment on the excise duty levy on fuel, you are increasing, I think, by 200 shillings. It means that this even has an impact on the price of a chapati. You are increasing the tax on cooking oil by 400 shillings. It means that even every household will bear some burden as a result of this increment. You are, for example, the first time registration of border motorcycles has been at 200,000 shillings. Now it has been increased to 500,000 shillings. It didn't pass. Yeah. Some of those, so my argument is that these proposals are going to affect the low income earners more. But additionally, I think one area where Parliament has not helped us much is to increasingly push government to reduce expenditure, especially in the area of governance. Because if you, for example, now every district in Uganda has an RDC, has a deputy RDC, and I think 2 or more than 2 assistant RDCs. So you realize that while our income is not increasing, our expenditure is increasing every day, and the increment is not on the basis of things that are going to transform productivity, are going to transform the lives of people, but largely expanding political patronage. The other aspect that I think is very critical is that as a nation, we must be able, if we are going to transform from being what we are, we must be able to take a bold decision at all levels, starting from the level of the head of state to the lowest person, to sacrifice. Many times, because today Uganda, I think, when you look at the budget now, almost 50% is going to debt service. That is not productivity. While we are borrowing to do some productive things like infrastructure development, but we are also borrowing to finance ideas that have been bought into by government in a very casual manner. That you are now giving billions of money to this man of the indebted people who are pitching to government to get money, and the intention is to help them pay some debts, but they will come up with some brilliant ideas, say we are now developing this technology. Even a bank, before it finances a project by anybody, they must first do due diligence. But if you are dealing with a person who is indebted to all the banks, and the banks cannot lend to them, and as government you say he has a brilliant idea, and you're giving him billions of money. So you're giving billions of money to the man of day, you are giving billions of money, and this is largely borrowed money, to the man of coffee planting in Tungamo, Atiak Sugar, and all these projects. The smart people in town have understood the vulnerability of the head of state. He's looking for monumental projects. He is a man that understands the laws of nature. He knows that as an individual, he's in the evening hours. He wants to leave monumental projects that in future people can say, oh, that.
And perhaps there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Really,
But because of the casual manner in which these ideas are bought into and financed, without mechanisms of accountability, without mechanisms of supervision, they will end up as white elephants. Government is borrowing money. This money will be paid by every citizen of Uganda. And so for as long as we do not manage how we are spending, we will tax people into pain, but will not be able to transform and move our country from one step to another. We remain in a cycle.
Yeah. Joseph, Benjamin goes, like Katesh earlier, went into budget things, and I had wanted us to focus on tax a little bit more. I don't know how laws are promulgated in Uganda, like tax on fuel will come into effect 1st July. But is Parliament able to say, because of a fuel situation in Uganda, let this tax start in October or November? Is Parliament able to say, because we've had issues with cooking oil, can the tax go towards supervision of what oil should be on the market? Is that possible?
Ideally, they should. And
because then these are things that concern the welfare of citizens. Kanish, you're saying?
It can be through a
Yes,
legislation.
precisely, yeah.
They can defer the effective date of
Yes,
application. But of course, you can't. You can't legislate on short-termism. There is still a lot of time between now and July, and I believe if the tension is escalated in the Middle East, and there is a bigger problem,
If you have to stay home,
government
or
could easily look at it and maybe say, bring another bill to defer the date of implementation.
And that's correct. So Katesh confirms that really what is important in this country is a question of leadership and goodwill. Ugandans, unfortunately, by and large, are on their own on important matters. But since it's about taxation, let me say this, that I was generally very surprised. And Katesh, I'm relieved that you suggested that the 500,000 proposed taxes on borders has been rejected, and Oscar was kind enough to let us know that from 1.5 to 3%, it was also rejected. It tells you that here we
withdrawal taxes on cash was also rejected.
We legislate like Trump. We wake up in the morning on whims and emotions and put through these things.
But
these are items.
Katesh is our example here. Katesh does not withdraw money.
No, but
So because he doesn't withdraw money, he may not care
but
on
when
whether
you
you
say,
increase
like-
withdrawal charges or not.
You see, legislation is a process, and the fact that it has not gone through gives you comfort that the process is actually a very good.
I am
process.
extremely uncomfortable. Let me make the point.
Yeah.
Oscar, two things. The timing of this process, Ugandans ought to note. why bring bills, legislative proposals as major as the anti-sovereignty bill as suggested, after an election, and subject this through to a process where the people who are legislating are people who are predominantly outgoing legislators, and they're not going to take on the burden like Katesh and Lydia. Number two, issues of taxation, especially major. I was giving those examples. These are ideally matters of major policies. These are matters that should be manifesto commitments. These are matters that political parties, and particularly lucky organized governing political organizations like the NRA guys, should have been telling us 12 months ago that there is a lacuna. We saw a loophole. There are issues to deal. We are struggling with budgeting. In the next government, we seek to propose, Katesh, isn't it? We seek to propose that we will increase taxes on particular areas in order to deal with some of our fiscal challenges. Number two, that there are challenges with the citizens of this country, so we need to make sure that we provide them protection through, ironically, anti-citizenship legislation called anti-sovereignty bill. That's one. So, outgoing parliament, so really the entirety of the process. But why I suggest that is, if that happened 12 months ago, Oscar, we would have been having conversations nationally. Legislators would have been subjected to a rigorous test by their constituents. Presidential candidates would have been compelled to explain, in this case, this is NRA, why these proposals. A proposal that you are going to double a tax on a person from 1.5 to 3%, basically 100%, and the other one more than 130% or 40%, just tells you that this guy is just playing with Ugandans. But that said, tax is an imperative source of income for governments. And for me, as a lefty, as a progressive leftist, I believe in big government. And for us, for UPC, we believe in taxation. But we believe in progressive tax, and that is why the only one thing, and for the record, please, the first time I'll agree with the NRA guys that they moved the tax threshold from 235 to 350. I have suggested, including in a program here, that for me I would increase that threshold as a UPC government to no less than 700,000. Sometimes I joke about 1 million, and I really mean it. That actually the tax threshold should be more than 600,000. And then progressively tax the other end. And Katesh knows it, and particularly Katesh, who actually worked in tax collection. We have regimes and systems that should be able to collect sufficient monies for us to be able to offer our public services. The upper limit of taxes, you'll be amazed. Again, Katesh in private, Katesh, I'm being very generous to you today. It was very happy with me that it's true that the billionaires should pay more progressively, and the people on the bottom side pay less. But beyond that, then, it's the responsibility of the citizens, for those of us, to make sure that we pay our fair share of the taxes. And once we paid those fair share of our taxes, what do we do with that money? Part of the taxation conversation must really associate with the issues that are being raised by Young Katana here, that how do we spend our money? The question of dates, public debt is gone beyond control. The manner in which we spend, the manner in which we're asking ordinary market workers to tighten their belts. But here, the guys at the state are expanding their convoys. There should be limitations, and I hope really the two legislators we've got today here, as part of the conversations you guys have from next month, you see, these are matters that should be concerning you, because our children and children's children are going to pay hugely for this. The fact that we borrow to serve a state, and the fact that we borrow to spend on luxuries is completely unacceptable. If only we're doing that to offer really these monies to push towards public services. But really, unfortunately, quick thing, of course, I know, is that I think the citizens is sufficiently aware. That's part of the problem. And we're discussing Shema as very well a politically, nationally conscious community. I know Lango as the other. I wish really the broader spectrum of Ugandans woken up. I just take those two examples to learn, so that whatever happens about these things,
Okay.
legislators are held to account.
Let's stop for a quick break.
Sorry.
Welcome back from the break. Interesting discussions in the break. Derek Kwandera, when we talk about tax hikes, and we've talked about in the break, what does the budget mean to everyone? But it's a question of what we take, especially tax hikes, if I may use the word. One will argue that maybe, yes, increase taxes on imported spirits, but 50% on bottled water. How much is it in actual terms, and why? Because bottled water is, you want to promote the boiling of water, you want to promote healthy water.
They
Is
use
it on
50%
bottled water?
Bottled
Is it
water,
on
and
the
in fact, it is bottled water and alcohol. They touch me a little bit.
on a,
It's there. Check properly, Honorable. Okay, Oscar. The one problem we suffer as a country is our leaders and the policy makers always taxing from the same tax base. Year in, year out, the same tax base is what we are milking. We're almost milking.
income tax rate
already-
is going to 40%.
You get? An already tired cow, which we are not actually feeding. We've always been ranting about these matters. But there are grey areas in this country that can be looked at in terms of widening the tax base. Let me give an example. Let's look at gold. At least we know that gold is one of our biggest exports in this country. Do you know how much is taxed on gold? A kilogram of gold goes for at least 500 million, more than 500 million. But do you know the tax?
No.
Is $200. That's about 700,000 on gold. A kilo of gold is taxed at $200. That's about. Check the figures. Don't say when you. Yeah, and I want you to read and check the figures.
If we go into a discussion on the gold
And you see,
we have to look at
per year, we export gold to a tune of about 21 trillion. You get? And that's about 48,000 kilograms per year. If we got the 200 USDs, we tax that money at about 34 billion. If we widened our tax base and said, okay, let's look at this lucrative area and revise the policy within which we tax the area, and we just said maybe we tax maybe 10%, at least 10% per kilogram, we already have those areas, that we can tax without going for things that injure me, the young person. Me, the downtrodden person of fuel, water, alcohol, and whatever, spirits and whatever. There are areas that can be taxed, and the country will not feel the pinch. The law, the Muntua wants this, the Mwananchi will not feel the pinch. For instance, even when you look at some of the agricultural products, milk, it's one area that you can look at in terms of taxation. It doesn't have a tax. Most agriculture. Yes.
20,000 cows to give MPs money, but you don't know about the tax returns he filed.
It's not there at all. For me, I feel as a country, we need to widen our spectrum. We need to change the lenses within which we use when we're looking at taxing Ugandans. That each time you're coming to tax, you are taxing someone who is already pinched, who cannot even afford a meal, and is the person you're saying, now we don't have anywhere to tax from. Now let's go for you're going for my pay as you earn, which has now gone to 40%. Initially, I've been crying about pay as you earn, but now if I get 1 million shillings, that means I'm going to get only 600 away from from all the others.
That's not true.
Not for 1 million. It is for a threshold. If you
Okay,
get
whatever
if you get
threshold
10
it
million, that's what will
So
happen.
for me, I'm saying, as an employee, I'm already overtaxed because there are so many taxes on that. Small, So if you are increasing on that, it means a Ugandan should suffer even a little bit more. But yet there are grey areas, and I've given some examples. Honorable Katesh, let's widen our tax base. Let's look at areas that are less taxed and yet are so lucrative. And yet they are so lucrative. Because these things are the ones they come to explain to us, but they are not looking at them realistically. Each time there is an increase on tax, trust you me, these things are going to be will have the tax increment. Fuel will always go high in terms of tax. Alcohol will always go high in terms of tax. And household rent, that is targeting only the downtrodden Ugandans, the poor. So it means the poor should get more poor, and those who are rich, they flourish. You get? So that kind of creation of an income gap, it is what is causing Uganda to stay where we are. But I'm saying we have grey areas which can be taxed, and Ugandans will not complain much. But if we are saying that every Ugandan has to, we need to share this, but also look at the poor Ugandan as someone who can be helped.
Lydia, you're excuse me, the one in research, as Benjamin does not tire to point out.
Planning.
And planning, yes. and planning for Uganda. But Lydia,
you see
this one first. In contesting, Joseph Otieno says he would have wanted the threshold to go to 700,000, and I'm telling him that would not have worked because you do not have a statistics that Lydia has. For example, 1st May 2024, Bank of Uganda said only 1% of Ugandans earn $1 million and above.
Yes. Yes.
Only 1% earn $1 million and above.
That's a national crisis.
Yes. So now if you want the threshold to be at 700,000, it will be a problem. Now, another one tells me that Asians, who are about 50,000 in Uganda, account for 60% of the taxes collected.
The issue is not the race of the person. The issue is the business being taxed.
Yes.
So if they have the capacity to be in industry or to be the ones who are producing the products that are taxable, we'll look at the product.
This is true. I'm trying to beef up Derek's argument to widen the tax base so that you reach out more.
You see, goods are in categories. There's what you call essential goods. For the issue, for example, where I sit, we've been having a very serious campaign about taxing products like sanitary pads. For us, we think that that's a very big essential. It's like medicine for women. I mean, and yet women who are at a younger age, who are not actually who have not yet reached the age of being self-sustaining in terms of income. So I'm giving an example of essential goods. But there are also goods which should be taxed, which are luxury goods. Someone talking about wealthy people. I mean, if you tax goods that are in the category of what you define as luxury goods, perfumes, high-end, high-end perfumes, high-end makeup, high-end alcohol, whiskeys and drinks. These are in the category of high-end decorations and stuff. These are high. These can be taxed, so that you cushion the
Ugandan whiskey.
You cushion the vanquished. You cushion those that are less able, even on the products that have indirect tax. The policy on indirect tax is good for the country because even the revenue collection is from the other stakeholders who are doing the selling, and sometimes when you are purchasing goods which the indirect tax is inbuilt, you may not feel the pinch like the direct tax. Oscar, the contradiction is in what I wanted actually Katesh to listen to this business of taxing the income. First of all, for example, okay, leave alone the private sector, but Uganda, the civil service in Uganda is about 400 people thereabout. Now you pay them 400,000. You give somebody 20 million shillings or 15 million shillings, then you tax. Is it 40% or whatever percentage? So you are giving with the right hand and removing with the left hand. Okay, that is the elementary thinking. Whereas if you pay this fellow the money as a salary, it would motivate them now to have purchasing power. Because at the end of the day, this salary ends up where? In the market, either paying school fees or paying medical. But now if you take like half of the money now, you say my gross, there is what they call the gross and then the net. The net becomes such a, like now members of parliament, I think your salary, when they say it's 5 million or so, then when they give the net, your salary goes to like 2 million or whatever. But so you people survive. People now talk about your allowances, which ideally shouldn't be a pay; it should be an expenditure. Like if Katesh will tell you, oh, your fuel, but fuel must go to Shema. You see my point? Your fuel must, and it has increased. The cost of the fuel has gone up. So my contribution to this is that widening the tax base, it requires innovation. I'm just looking at my village. I come from a cell called Nabweya in Mbale City. Even when we clamor for social services, in my mind, many of the members of that community where I come from can only contribute the tax base of Uganda through indirect tax. Because if somebody is a boda rider, how much do you expect from such? So we must work very hard, be more innovative to ensure that Uganda's strong energy, first of all, is productive. How are we going to make the young population productive so that whatever they put a hand on can now be either empower them to have purchasing power that then gives you revenue through indirect taxes or create jobs or the opportunities. Yesterday, the president was launching a factory in Karamoja for clinker, cement. But if such huge projects come up and we have progressive laws and policies about local content, Katesh, local content, what does local content mean? Empowering the young nationals either to get employment opportunities in these factories, or if not, be the ones to procure in terms of also be the ones to have letters of credit. How is our profiling on letters of credit as Ugandans? So that you're able to pick materials or products, you go on the market and then you pay after you have sold. So there are these opportunities that should come out so that they jumpstart the business community or the production sector to keep people busy, productive. But there's also, as I conclude, there's this thing of disguised unemployment. Somebody wakes up every morning and you think they are busy. Kumbe they are only working for the stomach. It's a very serious matter. Day in, day out, you find people are up and down. By the end of the day, they cannot balance the pockets. It's a very serious issue in Uganda. Yeah, busy, they are busy in the training centers, they are busy in town, but at the end of the day, when the day is breaking, really there is nothing to talk about. They don't have insurance, they don't have even any package to speak out. They're not investing, they are not saving to anything. They are not saving to anything.
Before
Oscar,
COVID, I did one of my last walks in Kampala, and I walked with some of his boys that sell chewing gum. So I interviewed him.
The vendors.
The vendors on the street.
Hawkers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he had like 3 packets of. So I said, "What is your stock?" He says, 10,000 worth of chewing gum. So what do you go back home with? And he said he may sell all, and at the end of the day, he may have about 6,000 shillings.
So you see, there's an issue of wasting energy, because every day you don't become younger. You are growing older. The energy out there for so little. The late Sebunya was your friend, Oscar, Dr. Sebunya. The one was the Minister of Agriculture. He used to talk about this in a very graphic manner. He said he used to meet people in his constituency. He was from Busukuma there. He would say you find 6 able-bodied men with about 12 small dogs with ropes. and pangas going into the in the forest. They go hunting. Then at the end of the day, they are returning like with the 2 edible rats, emisu. So then you say these are 12 goats. These are 6 able men. Who is going to eat the tail and who is going to eat the feet? So that is the graphic picture of putting wrong energy to a wrong effort and to zero profit. So we need to really work around this and make sure that this does not happen to our country.
Just one comment, Oscar, on that. It's the picture here she has just painted speaks to deficiency of leadership, because the cultural shift for people to focus on productivity as opposed to wasting time on things that do not add value comes from the leaders. That's why leaders emerge and occupy space. But the challenge we have in our country is that somehow people think that it will come as manna from heaven for people to change their approach.
That
and
must change.
To engage in things that will help them move from one step to another. We normally in class and here use example of Singapore, but Singapore was as poor as Uganda was, I think, around 1960. But because the leadership that emerged focused on how they can change the approach of their society. But if you have just a few individuals who think that they have a vision in their head, the head is not shared by the vision is not shared by the population, and they think that somehow things are going to change, it's not possible. Yeah.
The Moses Birahanga says, ask Derek how taxing alcohol targets the poor. And then
we know a few rich guys who live on it anyway.
To the best of his knowledge, unprocessed food items, matoke, beans, milk, meat are not taxed.
I'm talking about the expensive high-end drinks, whiskeys and wine.
Can I tell? Let's have Katesh first, and then we'll have it. Katesh, again, more figures that you need to give us.
Yeah, first of all, my brother Derek.
Katesh, as Lydia, there's more information from that Bank of Uganda survey of 1st May, or report, 1st May 2024. That you need to know going into these discussions, especially at PDM. It says a very small, 49.2% earn less than 150,000 per month.
Yeah, Oscar.
93% of bank accounts do not have more than 1 million.
Yeah, it speaks to the big elephant in the room is how productive are we as Ugandans? We have had very many people in the subsistence economy. And subsistence means someone is working for his stomach. But government is carrying the burden. When that person goes to the river, they must provide service. Government will provide service. Okay? They must go to UPE. They must go on the roads. They need security. That is the big elephant in the room.
Government, and then after doing all those things, government has helped them.
The government,
they graduate, then they ride the border.
Now, the government's efforts, when you look at what we call now...
I just wanted to show that Katesh is only doing halfway.
Oscar, what we call now, what we call the Musevenomics, one of the components is that, you see, the government's investment in the wealth funds that are targeting to lift people from subsistence into the money economy is basically pushing Ugandans into a productive, to be productive and be able to contribute. We have less than 6 million taxpayers on the register. If you look at the needs of where Othieno comes from, Nagongera, vis-a-vis the contribution of the people into the tax, they are world apart. So how does government...
Are you saying we're that poor?
No, the example falls even for my district, and I always tell them, you see, your contribution versus your needs are world apart, okay? So it is a catch-22. Wandera, I agree with you, research has to be done to look at the areas, but also let's not generalize, because when you talk of, I don't want to go into the discussion of God, but you need to understand the regime and exactly what are you taxing. Because taxation must also not disadvantage economic growth. If you create yourself as a hub of processing a product that perhaps you are not producing, and then you overtax it, it will run away. So there is a whole discussion about that regime.
Please say more about that.
Listen,
Really, Ugandan.
I do not want. I will take an hour to talk about that regime, because at least I have done some research. I know, but I also want to correct you. Milk is taxed. Processed milk pays VAT. So there is no the assumption that people are not paying is also not true. So yes, I agree with you, widening the net, doing research, but this whole cry that you see, you are burdening the money, by the way, that comes from one hand is going to the same people. The 1 million that government is giving people under PDM is coming from a tax, and therefore there is someone who is actually carrying that burden. It's not coming from heaven. It's not borrowed money. We have not borrowed money for PDM. It is coming from Katana, who pays more. And finally, on the payee, taxation, one of the principles in taxation is equity. So the rich pay more, and of course the low-income earners pay less. So the rates are progressive. We must commend government for lifting the threshold, so that all the farm workers and some of the people that Oscar employs, that he has been paying 300,000, now they will take the whole.
Not us.
Okay. Yeah, but it is progressive, and there was a debate in Parliament whether we should increase this threshold to 400,000. I think you also need to look at issues progressively, but there is a relief at every band actually, because even those ones in the bracket of 20%, there is some small relief according to the current rates. And so the issue of taxation is a catch-22. You have a budget, people need electricity, need roads,
yes,
they need health services.
I have a
must come
Dr.
from
B
somewhere.
here who says it's right to talk about the budget more than the taxes, and we shall talk about the budget soon. Derek, 1 minute, conclusion.
Like I said, we need to look at areas that are grey. The Honorable Katesh says processed milk is taxed. I come from a border district in Busia. I know how many people ride bicycles to take unprocessed milk to Kenya, and I'm very sure, and I know that that's not taxed, and yet it's a grey area. 264.5 million liters are sold per day.
I thought those routes
And
were
if
closed, no?
No, they are there.
Okay.
They go so. So agricultural products is one of the areas we need to look at. There are those other lucrative areas that we need to look at. Even if they are taxed small, they need to be taxed a little bit more. And
you don't want to express a tribal concept here.
No, I don't. I don't.
Okay. Benjamin, your 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Oscar. The thing is that as a country, we really need to get more serious. And there is a lot of casualness. Everything is done in a very casual manner. Now, Lydia and everyone else, they are running to, I don't know, marathon. The other day they were on a birthday. Others are going to a birthday, even whose person does. The one they are celebrating is not known to 90% of the people participating in these processes. The time they should spend thinking and planning for the nation, for the next generation, our legislators, our leaders are consumed in casualness. They are only busy when it comes to competitions of football and what. You even wonder if there's anybody and when you move out there, when we are doing the campaigns we just concluded, you see the population of young people that are uneducated, unemployed, and not in school. It is growing day by day. We can come here and talk about figures of what we are taxing, what we are not taxing, but the inability of these people to be part of the of the tax bracket, it's because the government, the leadership has failed to create a conducive environment for them to be able to earn and pay taxes. And therefore, that's where our minds should focus on how we can make our population productive
Benjamin.
and more useful.
Joseph, your minute.
My 1 minute is that we should tax cattle. We should tax, and I don't know why we shouldn't. And your earlier question about how money
again,
is.
I'm hoping it's not a tribal sentiment.
No, without prejudice. I've got cows. I've got cows. And in any case, the sub-region that had the largest number of cows were from the north and east, not anywhere else. So without prejudice, it's a broader national conversation. And most households normally would have it actually as a matter of pride. So we should be able to do that. But number two, as we discuss this, we should remember that people went to Chankwanzi and the legislators were given 100 million Uganda shillings. So lest we forget where that money came from, it must be a matter of concern. When
Lydia took 20 and Katesh for now. So thank you.
So we're going to, but just quick last one. That on this fuel thing, that while every season we are taxing, we are increasing taxes on fuel, we should be saying that, well, we should remember that, how much are you investing in public services? So people don't have option but in many cases go ahead and drive, and the implication on as suggested. Thank you indeed.
Thank you, the gangsters. Lydia, some good news from your Gaza girl, Robina Shonobi.
Yes.
Tayo Shonobi.
Yes.
Congratulations, Tayo Shonobi, who recently won Best Actress at the Uganda Theatre Excellence Awards. The first award in over 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you send her congrats.
Yeah, we celebrate Gaza spirit, fraternity. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And that's very for us, we never give up. The motto is never give up. That's for sure. So thank you.
Started in there. It's called The Blanket. And
yes.
she was with my friend as well, Kajimu Mukasa.
You see, Oscar, I just wanted to let him time.
Civic education.
But he also having a run for a good cause cannot be just pleasure. You can choose to cut a cake on your birthday in your bedroom. For us, we are cutting a cake tomorrow at Kololo and bring a run.
These runs, so long as they are going to bring something in.
Yeah.
But UTB has also delivered goodies as they promised last week. We have I don't know, this is a juice cup or water bottle. Okay. And then a notebook as well. Yes, so thank you very much, UTB. And a flash disc as well. Yes. Yes. So thank you very much, listeners of the day. Thank you, Star Cafe, for powering the gang. I am Oscar Semoyamsoke, and I shall see you next week.